One day, Edward was in the sheds where he lived with the other engines. They were all bigger than Edward, and almost all of them boasted about it.
The driver won't use you again. He wants big, strong engines like us.
But the driver and fireman felt sorry for Edward. "Would you like to come out today?" "Oh, yes, please," said Edward. So they lit his fire, made lots of steam, and Edward puffed away. The other engines were very cross at being left behind. Edward worked hard all day. The coaches thought he was very kind, and the driver was very pleased. "I'm going out again tomorrow," Edward told the other engines that night. "What do you think about that?" But he didn't hear what they thought, for he was so tired and happy that he fell asleep at once. Next morning, Edward woke up to find nothing had changed. Gordon was still boasting.
"Oh, you watch me, little Edward, as I rush through with the express. That'll be a splendid sight for you, old man. Goodbye, old Edward. Look out for me this afternoon."
Edward went off to do some shunting. He liked shunting. It was fun playing with troublesome trucks. He would come up quietly and give them a push. Then he would stop, and the silly troublesome trucks would go bump into each other.
"Ow, ow!"
they cried.
"Whatever is happening?"
Edward played till there was no more trucks. Then he stopped to rest. Presently, he heard a whistle. Gordon was cross. Instead of nice new shining coaches, he was pulling a dirty freight train.
"A goods train! A goods train! A goods train! Oh, the shame of it! Oh, the shame of it! The shame of it! Oh, the indignity!"
Edward laughed and went to find some more troublesome trucks. Then there was trouble. "Gordon can't get up the hill," the porter called to Edward's driver. "Will you take Edward and push him, please?" They found Gordon halfway up the hill, and very cross. His driver and fireman were talking to him severely. "You're not trying."
"I can't do it. Those noisy, troublesome trucks hold an engine back. So what am I supposed to do?"
Edward's driver came up. "We've come to push,"
"No use at all,"
said Gordon. "You wait and see," replied Edward's driver. They brought the train back to the bottom of the hill. "I'm ready," said Edward.
"No good,"
grumbled Gordon. They pulled and pushed as hard as they could.
"I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it."
Of Gordon. "I will do it. I will do it. I will do it," puffed Edward. Edward pushed and puffed and puffed and pushed as hard as ever he could. And almost before he realized it, Gordon found himself at the top of the hill.
"I've done it! I've done it! Yeah!"
he said proudly. He forgot all about kind Edward and didn't say thank you. Edward was left out of breath and far behind, but he was happy because he had been so helpful. At the next station, he found that the driver and fireman were very pleased with him. The fireman gave him a nice long drink, and the driver said, "I'll get out my paint tomorrow and give you a beautiful coat of blue with red stripes. Then you'll be the smartest engine in the shed." Once an engine attached to a train was afraid of a few drops of rain. He went into a tunnel, squeaked through its funnel, and wouldn't come out again. The engine's name was Henry. His driver and fireman argued with him, but he would not move.
"The rain will spoil my lovely green paint with red stripes,"
he said. The conductor blew his whistle till he had no more breath, and waved his flag till his arms ached. But Henry stayed in the tunnel and blew steam at him.
"No, I'm not going to spoil my lovely green paint with red stripes for your own time."
Then along came Sir Topham Hatt, the man in charge of all the engines on the island of Sodor. "We will pull you out," said Sir Topham Hatt, but Henry only blew steam at him. Everyone pulled except for Sir Topham Hatt, because, he said, "my doctor has forbidden me to pull." But still Henry stayed in the tunnel. Then they tried pushing from the other end. Sir Topham Hatt said, 1, 2, 3, push! But he didn't help. "My doctor has forbidden me to push," he said. They pushed and pushed and pushed, but still Henry stayed in the tunnel. At last, Thomas came along. The conductor waved his red flag and stopped him. Everyone argued with Henry. "Look, it has stopped raining," they said.
"Yes, that is correct, but it'll begin again soon,"
said Henry.
"And what will happen to my green paint with red stripes then?"
Thomas pushed and puffed and pushed as hard as ever he could. But still Henry stayed in the tunnel. Eventually, even Sir Topham Hatt gave up. "We shall take away your rails," he said, "and leave you here until you're ready to come out of the tunnel." They took up the old rails and built a wall in front of Henry, so the other engines wouldn't bump into him. All Henry could do was watch the trains rushing through the other tunnel. He was very sad, because he thought no one would see his lovely green paint with red stripes again. As time went on, Edward and Gordon would often pass by. Edward would say, "Beep, beep, hello," and Gordon would say,
"Serves you right. Serves you right."
Poor Henry had no steam to answer. His fire had gone out. Soot and dirt from the tunnel had spoiled his lovely green paint and red stripes anyway. How long do you think Henry would stay in the tunnel before he overcomes his fear of the rain and decides to journey out again? Sooner than you think. But that's for another story. Gordon always pulled the big express. He was proud of being the only engine strong enough to do so. It was full of important people, like Sir Topham Hatt, and Gordon was seeing how fast he can go.
"Hurry along, hurry along, hurry along,"
he said. "Trickety-trock, trickety-trock, trickety-trock," said the coaches. In a minute, Gordon would see the tunnel where Henry was bricked up and lonely.
"Oh my God! Why did I worry about the rain spoiling my lovely green paint with red stripes? I'd wish to come out of this tunnel very soon."
But Henry didn't know how to ask.
"I'm going to whistle at Henry. Oh, this is going to be so good,"
said Gordon. He was almost there when... And there was proud Gordon going slower and slower in a cloud of steam. His driver stopped the train.
"What has happened to me? I feel so weak."
"You've burst your safety valve," said the driver. "You can't pull the train anymore."
"Bother! We were going so nicely too. And look, there's Henry laughing at me."
Everyone came to see Gordon. "Huh," said Sir Topham Hatt. "These big engines are always causing me trouble. Send for another engine at once." While the conductor went to find one, they uncoupled Gordon, who had enough steam to slink into a siding on the other line. Edward was the only engine left. "I'll come and try."
"Ha! That's no use. Edward can't push the train."
Edward puffed and pushed and pushed and puffed, but he couldn't move the heavy coaches.
"Well, you've proven me correct, so why not let Henry try?"
"Yes," said Sir Topham Hatt, "I will." "Will you help pull this train, Henry?"
"Oh, yes!"
said Henry. When Henry had got up steam, he puffed out. He was dirty and covered with cobwebs.
"Oh, I am stiff, I am stiff!"
He groaned. "Have a run to ease your joints, and find a turntable," said Sir Topham Hatt. When Henry came back, he felt much better. Then they coupled him up. "Beep, beep," whistled Edward. "I'm ready."
"Peep, peep, peep, peep! So am I, Edward!"
"Pull hard, we'll do it.
"Pull hard, we'll do it!"
They puffed together. "You've done it, hooray! You've done it, hooray!" sang the coaches. Everyone was excited. Sir Topham Hatt leaned out the window to wave at Edward and Henry, but the train was going so fast that his hat blew off to a field where a goat ate it for lunch. They never stopped till they came to the next station at the end of the line. The passengers all said thank you, and Sir Topham Hatt promised Henry a new coat of paint. On their way home, Edward and Henry helped Gordon back to the shed. All three engines are now great friends. Henry doesn't mind the rain now. He knows that the best way to keep his paint nice is not to run into tunnels, but to ask his driver to run down when the day's work is over. Thomas the Tank Engine wouldn't stop being a nuisance. Night after night, he kept the other engines awake. "I'm tired of pushing coaches. I want to see the world." The other engines didn't take much notice, for Thomas was a little engine with a long tongue. But one night, Edward came to the shed. He was a kind little engine and felt sorry for Thomas. "I've got some trucks to take home tomorrow. If you take them instead of me, I'll push coaches in the yard." "Thank you," said Thomas. "That would be nice." Next morning, Edward and Thomas asked their drivers, and when they said yes, Thomas ran off happily to find the troublesome trucks. Now the troublesome trucks were silly and noisy. They talk a lot and don't attend to what they are doing. And I'm sorry to say, they play tricks on engines that aren't used to them. Edward knew all about the troublesome trucks. He warned Thomas to be careful, but Thomas was too excited to listen. The shunter fastened the coupling, and when the signal dropped, Thomas was ready. The conductor blew his whistle. "Beep, beep," answered Thomas, and started off. But the troublesome trucks weren't ready.
Ow, ow!
They screamed.
Wait, Thomas, wait!
But Thomas wouldn't wait. Come on, he puffed.
All right, don't fuss. All right, don't fuss.
Grumbled the trucks. Thomas began going faster and faster. Wheesh! He whistled as he rushed through Henry's tunnel. "Hurry, hurry!" called Thomas. He was feeling very proud of himself, but the trucks grew crosser and crosser. At last, Thomas slowed down when he came up to Gordon's Hill.
"Look out for the train."
"Steady now, steady," warned Thomas's driver. As they reached the top, he began to put on the brakes. We're stopping, called Thomas.
No, no, no,
answered the trucks, bumping into each other.
On, faster, faster.
Before the driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill and were rattling and laughing behind. Poor Thomas tried hard to stop them from making him go too fast. Stop pushing, he hissed. But the troublesome trucks took no notice.
On.
They giggled in their silly way. There's the station. Oh dear, what shall I do? Cried Thomas. They rattled straight through and swerved into the goods yard. Thomas shut his eyes. I must stop! When he opened his eyes, he stopped right in front of the buffers. There watching him was Sir Topham Hatt. What are you doing here, Thomas? He asked. I brought Edward's trucks, Thomas answered. Why did you come so fast? I didn't mean to. I was pushed, said Thomas. You've got a lot to learn about troublesome trucks, Thomas. After pushing them around here for a few weeks, you'll know almost as much about them as Edward. Then you'll be a really useful engine. Every day, Sir Topham Hatt came to the station to catch his train. Hello, he always said to Thomas. Don't let the silly troublesome trucks tease you. Remember, you have an important job as a special helper in the yard. There were lots of troublesome trucks, and Thomas worked very hard pushing and pulling them into place. There was also a small coach and two strange things his driver called cranes. That's the breakdown train, he told Thomas. The cranes are for lifting heavy things like engines, coaches, and trucks. One day, Thomas was in the yard. Suddenly, he heard an engine whistling. Help! Help! A freight train came rushing through much too fast. The engine was James, and he was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire. They're pushing me! They're pushing me! They're pushing me! He panted.
On!
Laughed the troublesome trucks. Still whistling. Help! Help! Poor James disappeared. Oh, I'd like to teach those troublesome trucks a lesson, said Thomas the Tank Engine. Soon came the alarm. James is off the line. The breakdown train, quickly. Thomas was coupled on, and off they went. Thomas worked his hardest. Hurry, 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 he puffed. He wasn't pretending to be like Gordon. He really meant it. Bother those troublesome trucks and their tricks. I hope poor James isn't hurt. James, the driver, and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. "Never mind, James," they said. "It was those silly troublesome trucks and your old wooden brakes that caused the accident." Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside. Then he pulled away the unhurt trucks.
Oh dear, oh dear.
They groaned. "Serves you right, puffed Thomas. He was hard at work, puffing backwards and forwards all afternoon. This'll teach you a lesson, he told the troublesome trucks. And they answered,
Yes, it will, yes, it will.
They left the broken trucks. Then the two cranes put James back on the rails. James tried to move, but he couldn't, so Thomas helped him back to the shed. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting anxiously for them. "Well, Thomas," he said, "I heard all about it, and I'm very pleased with you. You're a really useful engine. James shall have some proper brakes and a new coat of paint, and you shall have a branch line all to yourself." "Oh, thank you, sir," said Thomas. Now Thomas is as happy as can be. He has a branch line and two coaches named Annie and Clarabelle. He puffs proudly backwards and forwards with them all day. He is never lonely. Edward and Henry stop quite often to tell him the good news. Gordon is always in a hurry, but never forgets to say, "Beep, beep," and Thomas always whistles, "Beep, beep," in return.